ground types, a pretty great offensive typing, and in Generation 1, most ground types share the typing with another, like Rock. And with many water and grass type Pokemon we'll see throughout the playthrough on boss trainers' teams, that doesn't sound good for the likes of my future team. Today, I'm going to see if I can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Blue using only the ground type. Rules are on screen but also in the description. There was one starter I had in mind from the get-go that will be able to get this Nuzlocke off the ground, and that's Cubone. Starting with Bone Club, its signature move, and a ground type move at that, getting past the first gym won't be a slog, but Misty is going to be a problem. The rival is also going to be a problem later on, since we're going up against the Bulbasaur team, which means we're also going to have to face a Gyarados later on, who not only knows the move Hydro Pump, but is also immune to our ground type attacks due to being part flying type. The one saving grace is that we can at least catch a few Pokemon and we can have nearly a full team of 6 by the time we take on Misty. First I head to Route 22 west of Viridian where I can find myself a Nidoran female, which I guess are more common in this area in Pokemon Blue than Nidoran males. And that's fine because once we reach Celadon City, I'll be able to purchase myself a Nidorino from the game corner. After leveling up the team to Brock's Cap, I take on the Rock type specialist. I didn't mention this before, but I like this Gen 2 back sprite for Cubone. It looks like it's stepping up to the plate in a baseball game. Bone Club makes quick work of Brock's rock types due to being super effective, earning us the first gym badge. With the level cap increased to 21, we have an evolution on the team as Nidoran evolves into a Nidorina. In Mount Moon, there are a few things we can grab, like the Water Gun TM for Cubone to have some additional coverage despite having a trash special stat. I capture myself our next encounter, a Geodude, although it's all but useless against Misty. I grab the Mega Punch TM and 2 Moonstones for obvious reasons. And for the last time in this series, I grab the Helix Fossil. After exiting Mount Moon, we can get access to another Pokemon in Sandshrew, one of my favorites from Generation 1. And Sandslash is going to play a pivotal role on this team because it gets access to one move that none of my other Pokemon do. I'm sure you already know which one I'm talking about. I'm going to need a bit of a power spike for what's to come, so I use one of my Moonstones now to evolve Nidorina into a Nidoqueen. If I were to try and take on Misty right now, that would be a death wish, so I'm going to opt for my rival, which after leveling the party up some, he's not a problem. Sandshrew learns Slash at level 17, which is a great move for this early game. I did get a bit nervous when Bulbasaur hit me with Vine Whip doing over half, which was expected, so I have to swap to Nidoqueen to finish the job. Thank God that grass moves are only neutral against her thanks to being part poison type. So, similar to what I did in my rock type Nuzlocke, I'm going to be heading to Vermilion City first before taking on Misty. Thanks to having 4 Pokemon in my party, there's plenty of experience to go around so nobody levels past Misty's level cap of 21, which is great because I'm going to get access to a few new moves and a new Pokemon. The first of those new moves is the TM for Dig. It's unfortunate the Nidos can't learn this move, which I think would make Misty a hell of a lot easier. And because all of my other current team members do learn some type of ground move later, I'm going to give this TM to Sandshrew, who does not learn any ground moves by level up. I'm sure it wasn't hard for you to guess the second, which is TM08 Body Slam. Nidoqueen actually learns this move naturally at level 23, which is 2 levels over Misty's level cap. And I need this move now to help me defeat her, and with Nidoqueen being my strongest Pokemon as of now, after grabbing the TM, I go ahead and slap it on her. Finally, before exiting the city to backtrack, I head to Diglett's cave and capture myself a Diglett. I think the lowest possible level you can find in here is 15, and that would have been nice just because I could go all the way back to Route 2 and really get some stat experience training in with this thing, to hopefully help out with Misty. And speaking of Misty, I can't put her off any longer, so let's face her. She leads Staryu as I lead Nidoqueen. I went into this battle fully prepared to lose at least one Pokemon, possibly 2. I'm able to 2-shot Staryu with Body Slam, only taking back an underwhelming Water Gun from her lead as I move on to her ace Starmie. Of course it's faster, and its opening Water Gun scores a critical hit to bring my queen to 6 HP. Really did not want to see that. Body Slam does what looks like a 5th, but it does inflict paralysis, which will allow my Pokemon to now outspeed it. I wasn't expecting a critical hit from Starmie, and honestly didn't think about it. I had a few options in this moment. I could leave Nidoqueen in and continue to attack Starmie and hope for some lucky crits, that Starmie gets caught in paralysis, or that Misty goes for an X-Defend on one of those turns. I could also swap into another Pokemon, but let's be real, if Misty starts using Bubble Beam, my Pokemon don't stand a chance. I decided I didn't want to lose Nidoqueen and swapped to Diglett, although Cubone was also a possible sack option. Starmie once again goes for Water Gun, which Diglett survives on 2 HP remaining. Wow. I go for Dig on the next turn, which scores a critical hit against Misty's ace, leaving it on low red health. And although Diglett is going to die next turn, it helped us clutch out a win. Or so I thought, because Misty decides to spare my mole and use an X-Defend, allowing me to knock out Starmie with another dig. The Nuzlocke lives and we can move on. With the level cap increasing to 24, we have an evolution on the team as Sandshrew evolves into a mighty Sandslash. It's back down to Vermilion and the SSN to face the rival. This battle is a group effort between Nidoqueen and Sandslash, but with my team fresh off a big win over Misty like we just beat the 18-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl, he doesn't stand a chance. Surge doesn't stand a chance either, and I don't need to narrate this one. The only thing I can say is that Bone Club misses so much. I've never seen an 85% accurate move miss this much. It's really hammering home the saying, if it's not 100% accurate, it's 50% accurate. After defeating Surge though, we have another evolution, with Geodude evolving into a Graveler. And thanks to the help of a trade, we can immediately evolve Graveler into the powerhouse Golem. Rock Tunnel has some trainers that are a bit annoying but don't cause any problems. Like this first Pokemaniac, Nidoqueen at least has Bubble Beam for his first Cubone. And had I taught Thunderbolt to Nidoqueen, it would have made the Slowpokes quicker to deal with. I do eventually teach her that TM when I have to face a bigger threat than some Slowpokes. There's also the Lass with an Oddish and Bulbasaur who can be annoying if she statuses you, but Sandslash just one-shots both with Slash. I also capture my next encounter here in Onix. While it's not going to provide the same value as it did in the Rock-type Nuzlocke, it'll be a nice backup if one of my party members dies. Once I arrive in Celadon City, I'm going to hold off doing any shopping or selling any items. Instead, I'm going to beeline it to the guy down on his luck and snag the coin case. I then proceed to spend all of my money buying 50 coins at a time until I have 1200, which is just enough to afford a Nidorino from the prize corner. We have a couple of evolutions before taking on Erika, with Cubone evolving into Marowak, Diglett evolving into Dugtrio, and our newly acquired Nidorino evolving into Nidoking. I wanted to try and hold off on evolving Nidorino, but with Erika as the next gym leader, I could use some additional firepower to back up Nidoqueen, who I lead against her Victory Bell. Body Slam looks like it could be a 3-hit KO, as Victory Bell misses Sleep Powder. I bring it to yellow health with my next Body Slam as it puts the queen to sleep. I don't want this thing pelting her with Razor Leafs as she snoozes, and any of my other team members will die at the touch of its blade of grass, so I swap to Nidoking. Victory Bell goes for Sleep Powder again, missing, as Ice Beam finishes it. I stick with the Ice move against Tangela, which gets the freeze, giving me an easy knockout, and against her ace Vileplume, Ice Beam comes in the clutch again, freezing it as well, making Erika a complete pushover for a battle I was prepared to possibly lose one Pokemon. Giovanni is also a pushover. Both Nidoking and Queen have a move that are super effective against his rock types, Ice Beam in Nidoking's case, and Nidoking also has Mega Kick, which is a TM you can purchase from the Celadon department store, just for some extra oomph on my learn set, because I didn't teach this thing Thrash, because again, I didn't plan on evolving Nidorino so soon. I had planned on trying to make Nidoking originally have an all physical set, and Nidorino learns Double Kick at level 50 in these games. It learns it at level 12 in yellow. I had a set in mind like Double Kick, Rock Slide, Earthquake, and Body Slam, but because I had to use my Body Slam TM early and needing backup for Erika, I decided to make it a mixed attacker like Nidoqueen. The rival in Pokemon Tower is next, and Nidoqueen is going to be my lead for at least this battle, because the rival now has a Gyarados, but Nidoqueen now has Thunderbolt on her learn set. I was waiting until I had to face this thing, and the 4-time super effective move is able to one-shot the water type. and I hate knowing we're going to have to face at least 2 of these in the league. Not looking forward to it. The ghost types here don't stand a chance against ground type moves. Thank you Game Freak for making the Ghastly line part poison type as well. After Pokemon Tower, I'm going to make a pit stop to Silphco. The first stop is the 10th floor for the TM for Earthquake, which I'm going to teach to Nidoking, and then to the 7th floor for TM03 Swords Dance, which I'm going to teach to Sandslash, before heading to Fuchsia City in the Safari Zone, where I can capture myself a Rhyhorn, and because Rhyhorn evolves just under Koga and Sabrina's level cap of 43, I can evolve it into a mighty Rhydon. Because I've used majority of all of the good TMs already, this thing isn't going to have a spot on the final roster, but for any Rhydon fans out there, it's going to get some screen time later on. The battle against Koga goes as you would expect. His poison types don't stand a chance against my Sandslash. I set up twice with Swords Dance, which probably wasn't needed, and his lead coughing does hit me with a smoke screen, but thankfully my accuracy doesn't take the hit as Dig just sweeps his team, with the exception of Weezing of course, who decides he's going to blow himself up instead of letting me take him out. Rhydon's screen time begins now, as it's actually going to be my HM Pokemon for Surf and Strength, and sadly, Strength is one of the better moves I can teach this thing right now, because as stated before, all of my good TMs have been used already. I've taught Dig and Swords Dance to Sandslash. Golem has the Rock Slide TM. The Nidos are better special attackers than Rhydon, so of course they're going to get Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and those type of TMs. Not to mention I taught Nidoking Earthquake and had to burn the Body Slam TM on Nidoqueen so that I could get by Misty. I do end up grabbing both the Blizzard and Thunder TMs, but I'm going to save those for the league. There just isn't enough to go around in terms of TMs in Generation 1. Rhydon though with its HM set is more than enough to handle Blaine. I'm able to beat his entire team just using Surf and Strength, with a stomp in there. And if you ever want to know how trash Rhydon's special is, just look how much I'm doing to Blaine's fire types with Surf. I actually do switch to the move permanently against Arcanine because I took so many growls against Rapidash. But even his ace, the legendary Fire Doggo, can't defeat our Rock Rhino. Never change, Blaine. Never change. It's back to Silphco to advance the plot, and that starts with taking on the rival. This battle is similar to the one at Pokemon Tower because I lead with Nidoqueen. Gyarados is going to be his second Pokemon out, and I want that sweet Thunderbolt to take this thing out so it doesn't have a chance to take my team out with Hydro Pump. After I down the Sea Serpent, I'm going to swap to Sandslash to clean this one up, which consists of setting up Swords Dance and going for Dig to get one-shots on his 3 remaining Pokemon. I do the same to Giovanni, using Golem as my Pokemon of choice, setting up Harden for some badge boosts and one-shotting with Earthquake. Sabrina is the next major battle, and we see for the first time since it was a Diglett, Dugtrio. Her lead Kadabra is fast and can hit hard with Psychic, so I use my fastest Pokemon to one-shot it so I don't have to worry about that. Mr. Mime is next, and I accidentally leave my cursor on A going for Slash, which I'm glad we don't knock this thing out. It smacks my sausages around some before I swap to Sandslash, and you know what's coming next. Set up with Swords Dance and just sweep her team, although we see the world's strongest Psywave from Alakazam. Sheesh. It's Giovanni for the final time and the return of Rhydon. I was really hoping I would be able to just sweep his team with Rhydon, or at least get a Horn Drill off for the lulz. But unfortunately, Rhydon meets its end at the hands of Dugtrio and its Dig, giving us our first death of the run. This lets me bring in Nidoking on a free swap, who takes a Dig from the fast sausages before Ice Beam KOs them. While I'm able to take out the following Nidoqueen, my health is pretty low, and I don't want to lose Nidoking, so I swap to Sandslash. And like this thing has done in the last few battles, it sets up Swords Dance and finishes off the remaining Pokemon. Before we can head to the league, we have to face our rival, and instead of leading Nidoqueen, I'm going to lead Golem in this one. I start the battle off by going for 6 Hardens for badge boost so that we can outspeed his Gyarados, who will be the 3rd Pokemon out, but I'm also keeping an eye on my experience. As much as I would love to sweep with Golem, I'd level up before Venusaur, who would just wreck me with Razor Leaf at that point. So when Growlithe comes out, I tag in Sandslash, and you've heard me say this already, but from here, it's set up Swords Dance and sweep his remaining team. With the team stat experience trained, vitamined up, and candied up to the cap, this is our team, and I'm going to explain some things as I go through each Pokemon. We have Nidoking with Ice Beam, Mega Kick, Horn Attack, and Earthquake. I'm actually going to teach it Thunder in the place of Horn Attack before the battle against Lorelei, because I can't use Nidoqueen, which I'll explain why in just a moment. Sandslash, our trusty Swords Dance sweeper, with Slash, Dig, Sand Attack, and Swords Dance. I'm also going to change the moveset up on this Pokemon, swapping out Sand Attack for Mimic, because Mimic is going to be a lot more useful for this first battle against Lorelei, which probably tells you my strategy. Golem, the Megaton Pokemon with Rock Slide, Earthquake, Harden, and Tackle. I can't believe I still have Tackle on this thing. I shouldn't have deleted Rock Throw for Rock Slide. I also should have grabbed an extra Mega Kick TM for this thing, but having Tackle on it still, that's just kinda funny. Marowak, our starter with Bone Meringue, Water Gun, Thrash, and Submission. And again, pretty funny I still have Water Gun on my set, and the fact I taught this thing Submission just to have extra coverage tells you everything you need to know about this thing's move diversity. Nidoqueen, who's been with us since the beginning, and you might have noticed something already on this screen, but if not, I'll point it out to you. Nidoqueen is level 60, above Lorelei and Bruno's level caps. I figured in order to have a chance against the league, I was going to have to stagger my levels instead of all of my Pokemon coming in at 55 or 6, and I'm taking this as a lesson learned from the Fighting Nuzlocke, where we wiped to the champion, and the Fairy Nuzlocke, where we had some scares in the league. Nidoqueen is working with Body Slam, Thunderbolt, Bubble Beam, and Blizzard. And finally, Dugtrio, our fastest Pokemon by far with Slash, Dig, Earthquake, and Sand Attack. This is the team, and I think we have a good shot at defeating the league, but there's only one way to find out. Up first is Lorelei and her Water and Ice types, a battle that I'm rolling the dice on. I lead with Nidoking, who lands an Opening Thunder doing over half to Dugong, as its Aurora Beam does just under half to me. I miss my next Thunder as Dugong goes for rest. Since it's snoozing, I go for the more accurate Earthquake to two-shot the Sea Lion. Cloyster is next, and I need Thunder to hit, which it does, one-shotting the tanky Clam. Slowbro is next, and now I'm going to swap to Sandslash. And the rest of the battle is a layup from here. Mimic Amnesia to max my special, Swords Dance to max my attack, pray that Lorelei's Pokemon don't get a critical hit if they do manage to get off an attack, and sweep. Bruno is next, and I'm going to give Marowak some screen time. Water Gun, without a crit, is able to one-shot his lead Onix. Hitmonchan follows. It's faster, and its opening Ice Punch scores a critical hit, doing about half, as Bone Meringue only hits twice, leaving it on yellow health. It goes for a second Ice Punch, getting another critical hit, which we live on 5 HP remaining, as Bone Meringue takes it out. Against Hitmonlee, I swap to Sandslash, and you've seen enough of Sandslash in this run to know what's coming next. Man, I can't wait to do this thing in a solo run. I'm excited for Marowak as well, I can't lie. Agatha is up next, and originally I had planned on using Dugtrio against her, which is why I brought it to her cap of 60, but I decided to roll with Nidoking to level him up some. He has Earthquake for the Ghosts and Arbok, and Ice Beam and Thunder are enough to ground Golbat. Although I end this one at under half HP, I was never worried. This brings us to Lance, and why I leveled up Nidoqueen. I remembered back to the Poison Nuzlocke when I lost Nidoking, thanks to this thing's Hydro Pump. That doesn't happen today though, as Thunderbolt one-shots Lance's lead. I have Blizzard for his remaining 4 Pokemon, and so far through the league, despite one close call, my ground types haven't struggled, but will that be the case against the champion? Let's find out. I lead Sandslash against Pidgeot, which is not a good choice. I should be saving this thing to bring in later. I open with a Slash that does half, as Pidgeot mirror moves it back at me, which not only will automatically crit thanks to Pidgeot's base speed, but it also gets a stab boost from the move. I set up Swords Dance the next turn as Pidgeot begins to glow for Sky Attack. I take it out with another Slash, moving on to Alakazam. It's faster, and Psychic deals massive damage and leaves me on red health, as Dig takes out the Psychic type. Rhydon is next, and as much as I want to swap out Sandslash, it also makes sense to leave it in and deal whatever damage I can to the following Gyarados before it gets knocked out. Honestly, Golem would have been a better lead in this one. Set up with Harden on the Pidgeot, and then bring in Sandslash on Rhydon. Sandslash is able to deal about a third of of Gyarados' health before Hydro Pump KOs it for our second death of the run. This lets me swap in Nidoqueen, who I taught the Fire Blast TM to for Venusaur, forgetting that Ice is super effective against grass types, because Bubble Beam or even Surf would have been useful for Arcanine. I have to knock out the Fire Doggo over 4 turns with Body Slam before moving on to his ace Venusaur. Nidoqueen rips a Blizzard, doing 3/4, as Razor Leaf can't do nearly enough to my Queen, as I finish his ace the next turn, winning us the run. We did it. We beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Blue using only the ground type, and unless I decided to post some surprise video of the ghost or dragon type, this brings the Gen 1 Nuzlocke series to a close, which means it's time to move on to Generation 2 with this series. But before we do, let's end this series on a high note. I did go back to the fighting type Nuzlocke on my own time, and I was able to claim victory over the champion. As always, thank you guys for the continued support on the channel, and thank you for the support throughout this series. I wasn't sure if you guys would like Nuzlockes. Hell, I wasn't sure if I would enjoy them myself, but they've kind of grown on me, and I'm excited to do more. Special shout out to my channel members, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Take care, everybody.